What's up, everybody? Hope everyone is doing well. Canada loses to Czechia in a pretty interesting game, but it was quite obvious, at least to me, I'm sure a lot of you guys too, that from the beginning, this was not Canada's year. From players left off the team to coaching style and an injury to Schaefer, it just wasn't Canada's year. Anyways, in this video, I thought we would look at the worst season in NHL history, from a team standpoint, that is. In recent memory, I think it was last year actually, the San Jose Sharks had one of the most pathetic seasons, at least in recent memory. Good thing they got Celebrini, or who knows where that organization would be. So in this video, I'm strictly going off points percentage and not overall losses, due to there being ties in the NHL up until fairly recently actually. I think it was in 2005 after the lockout that they changed that. So if we take a look at the top 5 worst teams in NHL history based on points percentage, we got the Pittsburgh Pirates in the 29-30 season, that is 1929-1930, at the number 5 spot with a .148 win percentage. At number 4, we got the 92-93 San Jose Sharks in only their second season, as the team finished with a .143 win percentage. And get this, 71 losses. That's just insane, as they finished the season with only 24 points. Some people will argue that this is the worst season in the NHL as a franchise, and it very well might be. But in terms of points percentage, it's number 4. At number 3, we got the Ottawa Senators in the same year as the San Jose Sharks, that's the 92-93 season, with the same win percentage at .143, but they did have one less loss than the San Jose Sharks that year with 70. However, they also had one less win, but they did have 2 more ties, so I don't know which one is worse. You can make an argument for both of them. They both finished with 24 points that season, so almost identical years. Pretty bad. Now keep in mind that expansion teams in the NHL being good is really recent. Because of Vegas, the narrative has kind of changed because they've been a powerhouse since being introduced into the NHL. Seattle hasn't been great, but I wouldn't say they've been terrible. They at least made the playoffs that one year. I think they went to round 2 actually. Anyways, at number 2, we got the 1930-31 Philadelphia Quakers. Now I'll be honest, I do know quite a lot about hockey and the history of the game, but I didn't even know that this was ever a team. They finished that year with a .136 win percentage and had only 4 wins in 44 games. Not great. Coming in at the number 1 spot with the worst win percentage in NHL history is the 74-75 Washington Capitals. I'm sure a lot of you already knew this, but this was a nightmare season right from the beginning. With only 8 wins in 80 games, 67 losses, and 5 ties, leaving them with a .131 win percentage. This is the worst team in the history of the NHL. This was the first season for the Washington Capitals, and like many other expansion teams, especially back then, they really struggled. For Washington, however, a perfect storm in a way emerged as the WHA was in full swing, leaving even more talented players unavailable than ever before. Expansion drafts were similar to the way they are now. Each team selects a certain number of forwards, defensemen, and goalies that are protected. But back in the day, I would say that the NHL was very superstar dependent. Not saying it still isn't, but it's much more a team game now, and depth is extremely important. In the 70s and 80s, if you had 3 to 4 really good players, you could almost win at will, provided those players were in the lineup and playing well. Look at the late 70s Canadiens with Guy Lafleur, Steve Shutt, Guy Lapointe, Larry Robinson, and of course Ken Dryden. Same thing with the early 80s Islanders, and then the Oilers right after that, of course. So pair that with the WHA taking top players from the NHL, and you get what is the worst season in NHL history, the 74-75 Washington Capitals. The first few picks the Capitals selected in the expansion draft were Ron Lowe, Michel Belhumer, and Dave Crisco. No offense to these guys, but I'd never even heard of them. I'm actually scrolling through their roster that year, and I don't know if I've ever heard of one of these guys. I mean, no offense to them, they're far better players than I ever was, but in terms of the NHL, this roster is not good. Their leading scorer was Tommy Williams, who finished the season with 58 points. A very respectable season, but after that, it falls off a cliff. The number 2 scorer was Dennis DePere with 35 points, and then there were only 6 other players with over 20 points. That's insane. So scoring was obviously a major issue for the Capitals that year, and they made not one, but 2 coaching changes throughout the season. So they had 3 head coaches that year. Management and the owner were definitely not happy with the team, and I can't blame them. They finished the year with only 181 goals and a whopping 446 goals against. That's almost a 4-to-1 goal differential. If we look at one of the better teams that year, the Philadelphia Flyers finished with 193 goals for, which was 6th in the NHL, and only 181 goals against, which was first. The Capitals finished the season with only 21 points, and while things got slightly better the following season, they were still not close to being good, capturing 12 wins in the 75-76 season. In fact, they wouldn't get their first winning record until the 82-83 season, which would also be their first year in the playoffs. And that does it. The 74-75 Washington Capitals were the worst team in the history of the NHL. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing to the YouTube channel. I would really appreciate that. And if you did watch this video, I really hope you enjoyed and you have an excellent day.